right. Let's see. What are we talking about?
Who knows?
Yeah, you're not kidding. No one knows.
I tell you, man, I'm not handling this well. I have to change some stuff.
Routinely?
Yeah. I'm exhausted. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait until 9:00 right now so I can get to bed.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I'm getting sleep.
It is different, isn't it? I mean, and you do it a little bit, so you're a little bit more used to it, but I didn't realize how easy it is to overwork. Like, I got to be careful, like I told you yesterday.
Yeah.
To actually set aside or be specific about my time and log in the time, what time I'm going to do this, and this, and then just walk away. It's too easy to walk back up here and just glance at that computer and see, oh yeah, somebody's emailed me and I should respond right now, even though I wouldn't normally,
Right. Yeah. I have the same problem. A lot of people don't have that problem. They have the opposite problem.
Yeah. Not working enough at home. Yeah.
I've always been that way. And really the only reason I started working from home was to save gas and to be able to leave, to go to practices and stuff a little quicker because I can log time easier when I'm at home.
Yeah, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah, right.
To go to practices.
Unfortunately. Well, we're still holding out for April 7th, it looks like.
According to the OHSAA?
Yeah.
So the Ohio High School Athletic Association came on today. Jerry Snodgrass, the president of the OHSAA, did a press conference that they actually announced yesterday or Tuesday that they were going to come on Thursday, which is today. That's the day we're recording this, and do a press conference stating what everyone thought was going to be new news, right? About new developments about their decisions regarding winter sports championships, the state tournament, and spring sports in Ohio, whether or not we're going to have them or not. And I know that there were a lot of nervous baseball, softball, track coaches and players just nervous can be because they knew he's going to tell us we're not having a season.
Yeah.
And what did Snodgrass say? I didn't get to hear him. I was in another meeting.
I mean, he basically just kind of restated what they had said before that, that it was a no contact period until April 6th. And they would maintain or go forward with that plan until the governor makes a change on when the schools might return. So, obviously the OHSAA is going to go back into, they're not going to open competition when kids aren't going to school.
Yeah. Did he actually say that, or is that an assumption that everybody, I mean, I assume that's the case, but did he actually say we're not going to open competition while schools are out of session?
No, I don't think he use those exact words.
But it makes sense.
Right. I mean, I feel like everything he said was that, they're not going to supersede the orders of the governor.
Mm-hmm.
Really the main statement that he said today was, people was asking me, there's two things that people's talking about right now. The winter sports tournaments, championships, and the spring season. And, he said a lot of people are asking me about is canceling those things on the table. And his statement was, yeah, it's on the table. It's definitely on the table.
Sure.
It's something we have to consider. So, and, it kind of just alluded to the fact that it's a possibility at this point that, they may not continue the tournaments and they may not have a spring sports season. And there are some other questions that people were asking, questions like, will kids get an extra year of eligibility?
Yeah. High school kids.
Yeah. And his answer to that was no.
Yeah.
Which I actually liked the response that he had to, can we just crown 16 teams state champions. And he said, no, I'm not into that. That's not what I want to do. Of course, he has a committee too that,
right.
They
it's
talk
not
about
just
things.
him. Yeah.
Right. But
Jerry's really good at his job. He really is.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of grief, but he
well,
really is good.
Anybody in a position like that would.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like when
do not presume to be a leader, for you know that leaders will be judged more strictly. Right? James says that in the Bible.
Right.
And that judgment does happen. We know it here and now.
But what was another thing that he said? Oh, he talked about maybe postponing the tournaments down into into May, and he said there are some
the winter tournaments
logistic issue. Yes, if things, and he said there's some logistic issues with that, and it doesn't look like that. That's an option. And he talked a little bit about AAU and club and travel ball, and basically there's some organizations out there that are standing up like leagues for high school kids to play in. And his response to that is basically, we're shutting down in lieu of the orders from the governor to, as a form of social distancing to try to get the virus under control.
Yeah.
And if you're meeting and you're practicing and you're playing, you're not doing that. So it was.
So basically, we can't support any of that. The club decisions,
right?
To do that, yeah.
All right, and based on what he said there, I would not be surprised if on April 6th, if they do not, if things aren't different then, and we're still not in school, I wouldn't be surprised if the no contact period continues, at least until either until kids return to school or until the end of the school year.
Yeah.
So they did talk a little bit about eligibility as far as grades go, which is something that we talked about last week. The fall off, or the fallout of all these things and everything that we have to consider, and the
ripple effect that takes place when you make one decision. Yeah.
And it wasn't so much, it's not so much for spring sports, but if you think next fall, your eligibility next fall is based on your grades in the spring.
Yeah.
Well, we may not finish a spring, trimester or semester, whatever the school is in. So how are they going to determine that? So that's another sticking point. Now, I think, by and large right now, most schools are planning on continuing some sort of learning activities, through the end of May.
That's what I'm seeing on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. And that will, I feel like that will, basically speak to the eligibility rules and things like that. So that'll be covered. But it was basically just, things are the same and they might get worse.
Do you think?
And we'll keep you updated.
Do you think that today's press conference, because it didn't really provide any new information, I know that it makes people comforted to hear him say, we're not changing anything. We're still in a waiting, we're still in a holding pattern here, waiting to see what happens. There's a chance that you could have your spring sports. There's a chance we could have a winter state tournament, which I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you come back after not playing any basketball at all, any wrestling. I mean, you're not allowed to be doing this stuff and just all of a sudden have a state tournament. That it makes more sense to me to go ahead and just cancel that, even though I hate the thought of it. It makes more sense to cancel that. Winter sports at least got a chance to play a regular season. Spring sports, if you just start it and shorten the season, go a little bit in the summer, overlap, you can't overlap, I guess, club ball and things like that. So kids would have to make decisions, I suppose, of what think about it. Here's a whole nother thing to a ripple effect to think about,
Because I got a shocker.
Some kids' high school season's not going very well. The team's not that organized. He doesn't like it, but he likes the summer team he plays for. High school season carries into June. Summer team's ready to start, and he's like, heck with this. I'm gonna start with my club team. There's just a lot of things like that could happen.
And I bet a lot more people would do that than what you would think, or what most people would think anyway.
Yeah, the temptation would be there, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
those two worlds sometimes collide anyway when it comes to off-season instruction and high school coaches and club coaches butting heads a little bit, and personal instructors and whatnot. Those two worlds could collide significantly if there does end up being a spring season. But I don't think there's going to be. That takes me back to what I was actually getting ready to ask you, and I went off on a tangent. Do you think that his press conference today, the Ohio High School Athletic Association press conference today, was just a buffer to soften a blow, to get people ready for a blow that is going to come, which is basically going to be the next press conference, him saying we're not having a spring season at all?
Yeah, I really do. I really think that's what it was about.
Yeah, I do too. No one would admit it, I don't think, but I think that we might even see another one, where we get some explanation of, well, guys, here's what it's looking like. We are still holding out, but just get ready, just to kind of get people ready for the inevitable. Sucks.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I see a lot of, you go on Twitter and you follow Governor Mike DeWine and see his tweets, and you a lot of people replying to those tweets are replying about their senior year and about their last year of the spring sport, baseball, softball.
I had to stop reading those, actually.
Track, yeah. I mean,
sad.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's hard. It stinks.
It does.
It really does.
It does. The thing about this situation is no one's alone.
Right.
Everyone is experiencing it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it.
And everyone's losing something.
Exactly.
Even a junior, a freshman, a seventh grader. My son's a seventh grader. They're losing their season. Yeah. It just so happens that a lot of these kids might be losing their last season, and that's
right. It stings a little more.
Yeah.
No graduations, no ceremonies, things like that. Did you see Ohio University's President Ellis's message yesterday, I think it was, the email that went out saying that they've decided that there will not be a commencement. Of course, kind of knew that was coming,
Sure.
But they are going to try to do something at some point, whenever that point is, whenever that day is, that we're allowed to go back out and be with people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, something like that you can redo. It probably won't be the same. There probably won't be as many people there, and it's rough. I mean, last week we were talking about.
Did you listen to last week's episode?
Yeah, I did.
Wasn't that funny how we recorded that on Thursday, and so much was happening in the moment, but then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday happened, and Monday morning it came out. I put it on my ears, and I told you. I was thinking about just deleting it because it was so outdated. It sounded weird. People probably think, what are you guys talking about? Didn't you know that? Don't you know that you're not allowed to do this, or not allowed? You're not the only school that's dealing with it. But at the time we were. At the time it was very limited. I think there were two leagues, an Ivy League and a D3 league, that had canceled their season, the spring sports season, and within a matter of hours, everybody else did.
Yeah, and I will say this, because I remember us saying, one of the things we'd like to see is, at least from a high school perspective, as far as forward thinking, continuing to evaluate the situation for what it is and where we stood. And I guess you could say that, the OHSAA is kind of doing that, and everyone's expecting the OHSAA to cancel the season, but if they would have done it already, a lot of people have been upset that they did it too early.
Yeah.
So at least they are trying to, take it one day, 1 week at a time, and being open to the idea that, maybe something shifts in the state of, this, what we're dealing with, and they're able to, to make a change. I think, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard for me to, I've been talking to some optimistic people, and some pessimistic people.
Yeah.
And, like anything else, the truth is probably in between there. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to think right now that there's going to be a spring sports season and kids are going to be back in school before the end of May.
I don't want to call it pessimism or call it the realist inside of me. I'm hopeful, but I have a lot of realism inside of me as well that makes me, I think it's winning out in my brain.
Yeah, same here.
The hopeful side of my brain is hanging on, but the realism side is seems to be winning out right now. And speaking of wanting to stay positive, pessimism versus optimism, and how we were responding to it. Something that I read a few years ago. Actually, I heard it before I read it. I listened to a series of podcasts put out by a couple guys named Tim and Brian Kite. You ever heard of them?
No.
Tim and Brian Kite, they started a group called Focus 3, the Focus 3 group. And they're not motivational speakers. I think they're what they would call life coaches or behavioral coaches, helping people understand the importance of mindset and what that does, how it motivates you to behave a certain way. They talk a lot about discipline. They talk a lot about getting your mind, how to get your mind right, and just doing the work. And a lot of the similar stuff that I wrote about in my book that a lot of people write about, who talk about these kinds of things. John Gordon does, and a lot of people do. Patrick Lencioni does for businesses. I don't know if you've read any of his things, but anyway, several years ago, who's the guy who the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul? Is that Canfield?
Yeah, Jack Canfield.
Yeah. He came up with this little formula that has been used in hundreds of circles now. And the formula is this. It's E+R equals O. And those letters stand for event, response, outcome. So event plus response equals outcome. And Canfield explained that in some of his books, I'm sure. I know John Gordon has written about it. He wrote about it in The Energy Bus. One of the characters of The Energy Bus told the main character, hey, remember this formula, E+R equals O. And so he talked about it in there as well. And then the first place really that I heard it was from Tim and Brian Kite in the Focus 3 group when I was listening to their podcast a few years ago. And they were actually talking about how they developed their entire model around this, particularly around the R portion of that, the response, and they call it the R factor. And they go around and they go into high schools or school districts, they talk to teachers, they talk to businesses, they talk to coaches, they've worked with teams, and they talk about how there is one aspect of that formula that you can control, but it has an influence and a direct impact on the outcome. The one aspect that you can control is the R, your response to whatever event comes your way. And you can't control the event, and you can't fully control the outcome. But depending on how you respond to that event, you actually can influence or sway the outcome. And at least, at minimum, you can change your perspective on the outcome.
Right.
And so they did that, and in fact, one of the most well-known places that they taught this was with the Ohio State University football team. They went in 2013. They spent a lot of time with the team in 2013, 2014 during that national championship season, and they worked with Urban Meyer, and they taught this curriculum, this E+R equals O curriculum, how to live above the line versus below the line. And speaking of the word, the phrase above the line, if any of you know, if you like Urban Meyer and you read any of his books, he wrote a book called Above the Line. Well, Above the Line is pretty much Focus 3's work of E+R equals O and explaining that. I guess putting Urban Meyer's name on it helped it to get out there a little bit more. I don't know. But I ended up buying that book and reading it. And it turns out that book was exactly like everything that I had listened to before. And so it's funny how that all works. But anyway, Solomon said, the wise King Solomon said in the Bible that there's nothing new under the sun. So I guess the key to creativity is just steal everything, right? And forget who the originator is. I'm kidding. We're not advocating for plagiarism here. So So
in some cases, the fact that Urban Meyer was tied to the story has made people dislike the formula as well.
yeah, that's true. You sent me an article yesterday by a baseball writer in Ohio, didn't you? Who was kind of bashing this E+R=O thing.
Oh, was he a baseball writer? I just thought he was a blogger.
Yeah,
I kind of
he did look like a
lost,
hipster, didn't he? It didn't look like a
yeah.
sports guy, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
if appearances tell you anything, so
we won't give that article too much credit here, just because. But
no, it seemed to me. Say what you want about the life system of how you respond to events that come into your life and how you perceive them. My thought was, I can't imagine that he's actually truly bashing that as much. I mean, it appeared that he just hated Urban Meyer. So,
right, yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, the basis of the formula isn't to deny or not know that certain people in life
mm-hmm.
have disadvantages.
Yeah,
and bad things happen. I mean, we've talked about this. This is true. This isn't new to anybody. Life is a struggle. I mean, look at what we're dealing with right now.
Everybody's feeling it.
Everybody's feeling it. And to be honest with you, before the COVID-19 pandemic started, there were people that were dealing with other things in their life that isn't fun to deal with.
Yeah, worse than this.
Sure, yeah, sure, absolutely. And if you weren't dealing with it, then you most likely just got through dealing with something that was worse, and then or you were going to start soon. I mean, that's how life works. But I think the idea is it's such a good concept because, and you said it, change your perspective on the outcome. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're going to fail, and it doesn't matter, what your response is. You can segment the actions in your life, and you can break away, you can break apart, all the different responses that you have to all the different events. And sometimes there's going to be failure and there's going to be heartache, and for whatever you're responding to, you're not going to be successful. The idea is, though, that over time, if you're controlling that response, right, because it's the only thing that you can control.
It is the only thing you can control.
If you're controlling that response, then more often than not, the outcome that you get is going to be an outcome that benefits you or that you see value in. And if you take that approach in your life, then even sometimes when the outcome is just completely horrible, you're able to find good in it.
Yeah.
In some other way, because of your proactiveness and the way that you're approaching, the situation. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's really not about success or failure. It's
right.
It's not about that, because you can't control those things, but you can control the way that you respond.
It's about
to the situation that you're in.
It's about you. And it's about what's happening inside of you. What you get to choose the kind of person that you want to be, regardless of the circumstance that you're in.
Exactly. What's the alternative to responding? It's doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in itself, that's a response.
It is.
But if you do nothing, then you've abandoned all control.
Exactly right. That's exactly
and really,
right.
You're just allowing things to happen to you. What you're becoming there.
You then become a slave to that circumstance.
Yeah,
you have enslaved yourself to that circumstance.
Right. I was going to use the word victim.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Very good word.
And there's a lot of excuses that we can come up with in life. I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of things that we can blame our lack of success on, or our outcomes on. The economy.
Mm-hmm.
Resources, right? Resources, lack of education. We can blame it on politics. We can blame it on our family. We can blame it on our wife or our husband.
Yeah.
We could. I mean, a lot of things. And it can be deep like that, or it can be more basic. When I go out, here's a story. I started golfing a long time ago. And I had some right-handed clubs. I started golfing with right-handed clubs, even though I'm left-handed.
You're a lefty swinger. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm left-handed. I throw left. I bat left, but I started golfing right-handed. So now what my thought was, I never got any better golfing. I was horrible. And I thought, I should probably start golfing left-handed and I'd be a lot better. So I got some left-handed clubs, because it was the club's fault. Right. And I started golfing left-handed, and that lasted for about 2 trips because I was worse left-handed than I was right-handed.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't, the motion's gone from me. I can't do it. It's so weird, but we can blame our golf clubs for our golf game, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
well,
ultimately,
you've seen the kids that go, 0 for 6 or 7. They don't get a hit in 2 or 3 games. What do they want to do? Switch bats? Right?
Yeah, that's true. I've seen kids go 3 for 3 in a game and want to switch bats.
That makes no sense. Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, exactly. It's, they're not even making contact, They're 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts.
That's the bat's fault.
It's a bat's fault,
Someone makes an error, and the first thing they do is look down at their glove.
Yeah.
You ever see that?
Hey, I've seen that. One time I have to say, I missed a fly ball in center field, and it was my glove's fault. I had a glove that I dove for the ball, and I caught it, and I knew I caught it. And when I got up, the ball wasn't in my glove.
Went through it.
Went through it.
Went through the webbing.
It broke the webbing out. It was
you got to condition that thing, man. You can't let it get so dry.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, there you go. It's still not the glove's fault, isn't it? I should have took better care of the glove.
That's right.
So that it was stronger. Yeah, exactly.
Bring it right back to the person really at fault. Yeah.
And see, and most people would scoff at that and say, "Oh, come on, the glove broke. You can't control that." But that's not the point. Getting back to what I was saying before,
that's
if
a slippery slope too. Yeah,
absolutely it is. And if you take responsibility for that failure right there, if you take responsibility for that failure, then man, it's gonna help you the next event that you come across, the next event that happens in your life. It's going to help you respond to that,
no doubt,
and it's going to help you change the outcome of that event,
no doubt,
based on your response. Just because you're taking responsibility for it. Dakota Meyer, great story. If no one's heard that story, definitely look it up on the Jocko podcast. I can't remember what episode it was now, but
it's around 115. I think
that's what 115 sounds right. Yeah. You're the one that told me to listen.
Even if it's not right, listen to 115, whatever it is, and you'll love it too. I mean, just Jocko's podcasts are just some of the most motivating, awesome, historical, make you feel so small and make you feel like whatever your job is, it's not nearly what these guys have gone through. I mean. And we know, that's not true. That's not the way Jocko presents it. But man, they're just so good. Just so good.
Yeah, it is. And
people all over the place.
Is that Slugger?
That is actually Daisy. That's Brock's fiance's dog barking.
That's too loud of a chirp for Slugger.
Oh, it's a high pitch. Yeah, she's about 15 pounds and Slugger's about 65 pounds. So their bark's a little different. So yeah.
But in Dakota Meyer, we have an individual that that was put in a situation. He made a choice, to go in and to try to save people. And now every day of his life, he carries the blame, and it's blame on his shoulders, his own shoulders. He blames himself for not bringing people out of that situation.
Yeah.
And he talks about, therapists have told him, no, it's not your fault. And when a therapist tries to tell him it's not your fault, he gets up and he walks out.
Yep.
Because he says it was my responsibility. It was my mission. It was my goal. And I didn't complete my goal. So, I'm at fault for that. That's my failure. And I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Just talking about that because
he takes ownership.
Yeah. And that's what successful people in life do, really. Most people make the excuses. Most people say I'm not where I want to be in life because of people and things and the situation I'm in. But people that are successful they go out and they earn and they take what they want.
Yes. Regardless of the circumstances that they find themselves in, regardless of the event that comes to them. And that's the whole point, you know? I mean, right now we have a lot of athletic people who listen to our podcast. We have athletes and coaches and parents of athletes who are listening. And if they're still listening, and there may be a lot more people who are listening now, even than what were before. And we have this thing right now that we're dealing with in our nation and in our world, which is an event that's been brought to us that we can't control. This COVID-19 coronavirus in our state and in most states across the country, decisions that are being made for you. How many people can gather in a group? So churches are dealing with it, organizations and businesses are dealing with it, sports teams, schools, everyone's dealing with these decisions, and they have to abide by them, whether they agree with them or not.
Yep.
We have to abide by them. It's out of our control. We all have an outcome that we want. You know, we see that outcome. You know, OHSAA announced their press conference today about baseball and track and spring sports and winter sports tournaments, and everyone's thinking, hey, he's going to give us an outcome. He's going to tell us what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. And you saw all these tweets underneath, these comments underneath that tweet saying, don't give up, let the kids have their spring season. And they're all stating the outcome that they want, which is the outcome I want. You know, we want this to be over. We want to get back to life as normal. But the outcome and the event are two things that we have really no control over. The thing that we have control over right now, today, every moment of our day, every hour from the time we get up to the time we go to sleep, is that big R that's in the middle, how we are responding to this every single day, how we're responding to it from the time you wake up to every conversation you have with the people in your house, to the tasks that you're given by your professors. If you're a college student and you're told to work at home, if you're a high school student and you're told to work at home, if you're a teacher and you're told to do this different kind of job that you're not trained to do, to teach remotely, do things that are just different. Everyone is having to do it. And the way you respond to that and how you respond to this undesirable circumstance is going to have, more than you realize, a tremendous influence on the outcome when this is all over. And there's not really any way there's no way for us to quantify that right now, but we can promise you it's going to happen. And, you mentioned earlier about how, everything that we deal with and we don't like our events, and our events sometimes are really bad and they're really painful and they're really difficult to go through. But on the other side of it, there is good that comes out of it. And one of the things I wanted to say as you were talking about that is I believe wholeheartedly that is true. And what I want to confirm with people, what I want to, I guess, affirm with people is that even though that's true, it doesn't mean that we're going to know or see the good that comes out of these events right now or immediately when it's over. Sure. Sometimes it takes a while and we look back months later, weeks later, or sometimes years later and say, wow, that's why I had to go through that. Look at how this shaped me. One of my favorite philosophers to quote is an old Danish theologian named Søren Kierkegaard. And one of my favorite quotes of his is that we cannot define our lives as we walk forward. We can only define our lives as we look backwards. So we live life forward and we define it looking backwards. And that's all we can do today.
Right. And I would even go so far as to say that some of us may not see it at all. The benefit. I mean, that's possible. It's been defined as a 100-year pandemic, and the way that we respond now could impact the way that our nation and our world responds to the next 100-year pandemic, and the way we respond now would impact the way our kids would respond to it, so it has that waterfall effect. And, we just don't know. Aside from that, if we're going to just lay down and not be the best we can be in this time, when it's cleared up, we're probably going to do that with the lesser challenges in our lives too.
Yeah.
And I, it's hard to, we don't want anyone that hears this, because there's people right now that aren't working at all.
Yeah.
And, they don't have income.
Right.
And, but there's people out there saying, well, it's not that big of a deal. Well, regardless of what you feel about the virus at this point, it has become a big deal.
It's now a big deal. Yeah.
It's a big deal, and people are staying at home and people aren't allowed to work. And, we need to take into account those sacrifices in the way that we handle ourselves daily now.
Yeah.
And I think some people are missing that point, but I say that just because I don't want people out there listening that's worried about their jobs. Cause like you said, you and I aren't, we're still working. We're still, trying to serve in the capacity that we can. And we have that responsibility and privilege at the same time to do that.
Yeah.
Some people aren't. And, it's not enough just to say, grow up. It's just a quarantine or, something like that. Some people are going through some really hard times right now.
Yeah.
So, it's not something we want to poo-poo or not put enough serious towards. But the formula still rings true, regardless of how big the challenge in your life is. You still can control the response. And we tell our players all the time these things. And sometimes I wonder if we say it so much that it becomes cliche to us, and not that we don't believe it, but we don't actually put it into action in our own lives enough.
It becomes like a lot of things when you talk about desiring a certain culture or putting together a mission statement for your team or organization. It becomes like a poster on the wall. It becomes like a statement that we know, oh yeah, E+R=O. But at some point it loses its life. It has to have life. It has to still live inside of you. It has to define how you live and how you go about your day and how you make your decisions, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So do we want to make any predictions for next week of how things are going to be different, or are we out of the prediction business now?
I don't know about predictions, but I'll say this. We have received messages from people, mostly baseball coaches, who say, hey, if you're looking for a guest on your podcast, all I have right now is time. So, so we might be able to line up some guests if I can figure out how to call you and the guest at the same time. So we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm glad we were able to connect. Like we said last week, man, the Coaching Life podcast just keeps rolling on. No coronavirus can stop us. I
think I did make one mistake last week, though. I think I said something like,
I made a ton of them.
Well, in regards to the podcast, because I'm pretty straightforward about. I don't mispronounce words or anything when we're recording here, so everyone knows that. But I don't misphrase phrases that are commonly used, or anything. Cool as a cucumber. Calm.
Right.
Calm.
That was right. Yeah,
I got that one right. Yeah.
Calm as a cucumber.
But I think I said that the coaching life isn't quarantined.
Well,
maybe I didn't. Now we are, though, I guess.
Now we are.
But
we're for all of you out there, Pat and I are practicing social distancing. He's a good 30 miles from me. We're not recording in the same room, so.
Right. But we're controlling our response, right?
That's right.
So
forging ahead and controlling what we can control. So
I guess it would be a good time to say if there's any certain topic that anyone wants us to cover out there that you feel like would be beneficial to you or to the community right now, drop us a line, shoot us a text if you have our numbers, or email us or tweet us and let us know.
Yeah, you can go on to Twitter or if you are on Facebook, you can find Pat and I both on Facebook. So yeah, we'd love to basically talk about things that you want to talk about. We talked about doing that a while back, taking requests or taking questions and doing a Q&A session or whatever. So yeah, we can do that. That'd be great. I'm assuming people are still listening to us.
Well, I'm sure our parents are still listening, at least.
They might be, yeah.
Might be.
Do you do anything special with your family right now? Like anything different that you guys, I mean, since you're spending a lot more time together?
No, we went up and let's see, was it Tuesday? We went up and took a hike through the woods.
Oh, cool.
And that was the first time we've ever done that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yep, it was a good time, and we're planning to continuing to do that. So
yeah.
But we'll be me and the boys we're into a throwing program right now, and
weather's starting to break.
That.
Today's the first day of spring. It's warm outside. It feels great. I mean, it's been raining a little bit on and off, but I love just being able to go out without throwing a jacket on or anything. That's nice.
It's still a little cold for me, Coach. I'm one of those 90+ guys.
Oh, I like the heat also. I'm the same way. Warmer the better. I like it.
Yeah.
But this is definitely better than 30.
Yeah, I agree.
No doubt. So yeah, that's cool.
What are you guys doing? You doing what's a garage band or Guitar Hero or something like that up there at the Stewart household?
Is that a video game?
I'm surprised you haven't played Guitar Hero.
We did a long time ago when our kids were little. We had that. I don't know if it was Guitar Hero or if it was the Garage Band, one of those, whatever was on the old Xbox they had down there. But yeah, not too many video games. We've been. I went and bought a big 1,000 piece puzzle and stuck it on the tiny dining room table, and we're gonna kind of piece that together. Watch a few movies, doing a little bit more reading than normal and things like that. But going outside as much as possible. And honestly, working out. I mean, I got a home gym downstairs with Olympic weights, and so getting quite a bit of workout in. So
yeah, you notice I didn't mention working out.
You got a home gym. Yours is brand new.
Yeah, it is.
Break that thing
I wonder how
in.
long it's going to... It's got all the paint's still on it, no chips at all. No, I've used it, but the transition to the remote work life has held me back a little bit. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse.
There you go. That's your event.
Accordingly.
Your event was you had to transition to remote work life.
Yeah, I've got a plan.
How you going to respond?
I'm in process right now.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah. If there's one piece of advice that I could give everybody, it's this: make sure you schedule your day. If you're a scheduler or not, if that's not you, if that's not who you are, if your world has been rocked and you've got to stay home now and you're not used to that, get up in the morning, whatever time you get up. I'm not going to say you have to get up early. I mean, I like getting up early, but you don't have to if you don't like to. Whatever time you get up, go take some time by yourself, get yourself a piece of paper, get a little journal, and write down what your day is going to look like, and make sure that way you know that you're planning in time for the things that you know you want to do. If we don't do that, it's going to be way too easy. And I listen, if kids are listening, especially, do this. Like if you want to get better, I mean, well, this is going to be over someday, right?
Right.
I mean, all this, and then you're going to jump back into what? Well, hopefully you're going to jump back into the sport that you love, and you want to jump back in ready. And sitting around doing nothing isn't going to get you ready. So
absolutely.
Plan it in. Plan in what you're doing, and make sure that you include time for all those things.
Hey, honestly, Coach, we've talked about this before. Mark Ripto said, take a year off and hit the gym, right?
Take a year off from your season, and it's in the place of playing and taking swings and things like that. Hit the gym, get stronger, because it's one of the best things you could do for yourself.
Definitely.
So if you're a freshman or a sophomore, this could be a blessing in disguise for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Get strong.
Respond accordingly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll do this again sometime.
All right, brother.
Yeah, it was good talking to you.
See you, brother.
Later on.